A disabled woman was the most important person in her tribe 12,000 years ago. Here's why. 12,000 years ago, in a cave in northern Israel, something strange happened. A community sealed a woman into her own grave. Picture it. Dark cave, flickering torchlight. A woman about 45 is lowered into a stone chamber. She walks with a permanent limp. One foot dragged her entire life. In a world where survival meant everything, she should have been a burden. But they buried her with 50 tortoise shells, a leopard's pelvis, eagle wing, and something stranger, an adult human foot that didn't belong to her. Nobody else got this. 28 people in a communal pit, she got her own stone-sealed chamber. Before sealing it, they held a feast in her honor, the earliest known pre-burial feast in human history. The question? What was she exactly?
Published in 2008, the conclusion was clear. Grave goods, feasting, isolation. It pointed to one thing. She was a specialist. A practitioner of something so important, her community spent enormous resources honoring it. She was the world's oldest known shaman. Now, there's something about this story that changes everything. She had a disability. In a Paleolithic world where you needed to run, carry, hunt, survive, she couldn't walk properly. And yet, she was the most important person. Her role had nothing to do with physical strength, everything to do with her mind. So, what was that state? Go back further. The story doesn't start 12,000 years ago. It starts 40,000 years ago in a cave in southern Germany with a carving that should not exist.
August 1939. Archaeologists excavated Hohenstein-Stadel Cave in Germany. They found hundreds of mammoth ivory fragments. Over 7 decades, archaeologists reassembled them into one object. A figurine 31 centimeters tall, carved from mammoth ivory using only stone tools. Human body, cave lion head. Experimental archaeology confirmed this took 400 hours to produce. 400 hours. No metal, no templates, 10 weeks of full-time work creating something that couldn't be eaten, worn, or used as a weapon. In a world where every hour was survival, someone spent 400 hours making a figure of a human becoming something else. The Lion Man is one of the oldest figurative art pieces ever discovered, 38,000 to 40,000 years old. It raises an uncomfortable question. What kind of mind imagines a partly human being that depicts a self in transformation? A self that has experienced it, not imagined it, lived it, like someone who entered trance and saw themselves change. But how did they enter that state? Where? The answer may be in caves themselves.
This is where things get really strange. In the 1980s, Igor Reznikov walked into Lascaux Cave and started humming. He studied acoustics and suspected prehistoric painters chose spots for sound, not sight. He mapped every spot where his voice resonated, where it echoed, sustained, bounced back richly. Then he overlaid that map onto cave art locations. The correlation was striking. The most acoustically resonant spots, where sound lingers longest, were exactly where densest animal paintings were. At La Bastide Cave, correlation reached 80 to 99%. In narrow tunnels where you'd crawl through darkness, no room to paint, he found red dots. Just marks. The spot had to be acknowledged. Those caves weren't art galleries. They were designed experiences. Painters chose surfaces that sounded right. The experience, darkness, cold, isolation, voice filling the chamber, was the ritual. So darkness, isolation, sound created trance conditions. And what they saw inside? The paintings themselves have the answer. But first, you need to see what Lewis Williams found. Okay.
Lewis Williams published the paper that proved it. He identified 6 recurring geometric forms in cave art from France to South Africa. Grids, dots, zigzags, lines, curves, filigrees. These shapes appear across cultures that couldn't have influenced each other. Lewis Williams identified what they were, what your visual cortex generates in trance. Not symbols, not decorations. what the brain produces when the executive system shuts down. The earliest geometric marks in Paleolithic caves are recordings of internal neurological experience. Lewis Williams argued painters didn't depict trance visions as art after the fact. They entered trance inside the cave and painted what they saw projected onto walls in real time, walls they perceived as a membrane between everyday world and something beyond. Brain-generated geometric patterns, the same you see behind closed eyelids in deep trance. But if the brain generates these naturally, did they need drugs at all? No. This changes everything. Wait, there's one thing we're assuming that's backwards. If you assumed trance was a byproduct of religion, the evidence says something more interesting. Religion may have been a byproduct of trance. The altered state came first. Theology built around it later. It wasn't about religion. It was survival technology. Trance allowed humans to bond in groups larger than immediate family, turned strangers into kin. Researchers argued shamanic trance states drove the cognitive revolution separating humans from Neanderthals. Harvey Whitehouse showed high-intensity shared rituals, altered states, extreme physical experience, collective suffering produced stronger social bonds than almost any other human activity. Not just in the moment, long-term. Durable. The kind of loyalty you die for. So why was the disabled woman most important? She could access trance on demand. That gave her power. But how did they do it without plants or mushrooms?
In 8700 BCE at Starcar in North Yorkshire, archaeologists found 21 red deer skull headdresses, each modified, antlers trimmed, inside scraped smooth, holes pierced for leather ties. A 2016 analysis confirmed these were worn, the oldest shamanic costumes in Britain. 21 of them. At least 21 people needed to become something not human. The costume was the first part. The trance was the rest. Ancient Halloween, with more drumming. Then there's darkness itself. In 2024, a team found a ritual compound inside Manat Cave in Israel, 8 levels down, 7 stories underground. Space held about 100 people, separated by stalagmites forming an entrance. At the center, a boulder carved with geometric markings resembling a turtle shell, dated to 35,000 to 37,000 years ago. The team called it having audio-visual equipment. Natural architecture was the technology.
Darkness. Resonance. Focal object. People came on purpose, repeatedly, not to store food or sleep, to experience something. Total darkness does something to the nervous system. Without visual input, the brain generates its own. The same geometric forms from cave art appear behind closed eyelids without any substance. Minote cave engineers figured this out. Go deep underground, in silence, and trance finds you. Add rhythmic drumming, and it accelerates. A 2025 review confirmed rhythmic stimulation shifts brain activity into trance states. Add fasting, sleep deprivation, physical exhaustion, and you arrive at indigenous initiation rites. A state so intense, the boundary between self and everything else dissolves. Not metaphorically, neurologically. So how'd they did it? Darkness, rhythm, exhaustion, costumes. No molecules needed. What was the biological payoff? Why does this matter to you? Every method, drumming, dancing, fasting, extreme ritual, produced measurable increases in beta endorphin levels, your brain's natural painkillers. They bind to the same receptors as morphine. Ancestors weren't just accessing visions, they were flooding their nervous systems with endogenous painkillers, and it bonded them. Trance was doing 5 things at once: pain relief, social cohesion, processing experience, cognitive upgrade, and giving the community's leader a healing tool nothing else could replicate. Religion came later to name what was happening. Why the disabled woman mattered? Her role wasn't physical. It was mental. She could access trance, power to heal, lead, bond the community. And this makes it personal. Your brain runs the same software.
float tanks, sensory deprivation chambers recreate what Minot Cave provided 37,000 years ago. Total darkness, silence, isolation. Ancient engineers got there first.
When researchers run trials on psilocybin for depression and get results psychiatry can't match, the mechanism is the same. Default mode network disruption. The self-referential brain quieted. Global integration increases. The active ingredient isn't the molecule, it's the altered state. Back in that cave 12,000 years ago, they sealed a woman into stone. She didn't have a name for it, probably no word for trance, but she found the door your brain still has and learned through practice how to walk through it. She was a shaman who accessed trance. Her disability didn't matter. Power was mental, not physical. She entered altered states and came back with healing, leadership, bonding that kept the community alive. Your door is still there. Will you walk through it?